Hi and welcome to another Carpenter Tutoring tutorial. I'm Amy and today we are going to talk about a classic setup for some word problems, which is asking for finding some numbers if we're told that they are consecutive and have a certain sum. In this case, we're dealing with the problem, the sum of three consecutive integers is 168. Find the three integers. You could just brute force this and do a plug and chug with this, and you could come up with your answer, but it would probably take you a lot more time than solving it algebraically. So let's talk about the process we can use to do that. In order to accomplish that though, I have to know what the heck the question is asking for. So let's talk about some vocabulary in here that may be unfamiliar. The first word here that may not be familiar is consecutive. Consecutive is a word that means one after the other or in a row. So when we're asking for consecutive integers, that would be values like 1, 2, 3, 16, 17, 18, 284, 285, and 286. So they're counting numbers that are right next to each other on the number line. When I work with students on these kinds of problems, that's usually the vocab term that gets the most trouble, but there are a couple others that you may have heard earlier in a math class and kind of forgotten. One of those might be sum. Remember that sum is the answer to an addition problem. And you also might stumble a little bit at integer. Remember that integers are all of our counting numbers, including the negative numbers and zero. So we have negative numbers, zero, and positive numbers within integers. Now that we have all of our vocab worked out, let's figure out how we can actually identify the integers that would add up to 168. A lot of students' instinct is to say, no problem. I've got three unknown values, and so I will call the first unknown value A. I will call the second unknown value B. And I will call the third unknown value C. And then I know that A plus B plus C equals 168. Well, that's all well and good, except that as soon as I have more than one variable in an equation, I'm not actually going to be able to solve that equation for the numerical value of those three different variables. One equation can only handle one variable. So we have to think of a way to define these using just one variable. We can go back to the drawing board and use this idea of A being the first of these three consecutive integers. If I use that definition, then the second consecutive integer is A, but with one higher value, so A plus 1. And then the third value would be A plus 1, our second value, plus 1, again, one higher than the second value. Or I can simplify this to A plus 2. Now I've defined my three unknown integers using just one variable. I have A to represent the first, A plus 1 to represent the second, and A plus 2 to represent the third. So if I add these three together, I should get an answer of 168. Now that I figured out how to define everything and I've set up my equation, I can go ahead and start solving. So the first thing I see is that on the left side of this equation, I have A's in multiple places. I'll go ahead and combine those like terms first. I have three A's, so I can combine those into 3A plus 1 plus 2 equals 168. And then I see that I also have constants in two places on the left-hand side, so I can combine these as well into 3A plus 3 equals 168. Now I can start to solve. I see that I have two relationships with A, both multiplication with 3 and addition with 3. Since we are solving for a variable, I have to use SADMAP as my order of operations, and SADMAP tells me to break that addition relationship first. I'll break it by using the opposite operation of subtraction, and subtracting 3 from both sides will give me 3A equals 165. And now just for space, I'm going to move the rest of this equation over here. Now I only have that multiplication relationship left between 3 and A, which I will break with division. I'll divide by what I want to get rid of, which is that 3. So dividing 3A by 3 will leave me with just A, and dividing 165 by 3 will leave me with 55. This is where defining your variable is absolutely critical because we have to remember what this A represents. A represented the first of our consecutive integers, the lowest of those three numbers in a row. So that means that my answer will start with 55 as my first term, but then has to include the next number, 56, and the next number after that in order to have my three consecutive integers. So the three numbers that add up to 168 that are consecutive integers are 55, 56, and 57. These types of problems are so classic for setting up equations that include variables, and it's not always intuitive how to get it arranged in a way that we only have one variable since we have 3 missing numbers. So I hope it's been helpful to look through an example together. As always, if you have any questions or other topics that you'd like to see discussed, please let me know in the comments. If you enjoy our content, I hope you'll consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Thanks so much for spending part of your day with me, and I'll catch you next time.